This is SimNews.TV, and you're listening to the iWeekly Show. Welcome to the iWeekly Show, the premier place for news, headlines, and analysis on all things iRacing, the premier online racing simulator. I am your host for today, Mr. Hashtag Do You Mind himself, Jake Sparey, bringing you the rundown on all things iRacing for the next half an hour. And boy, what a busy half an hour we've got. 5 different topics to talk about. But let's start with a big one. And I mean the big one here, because Petit Le Mans has been one of the mainstay staple fixtures of the endurance calendar for the last 2-3 years. And by all intents and purposes, Petit Le Mans did not disappoint. And for those of you who were wondering, yes, I did cover it. Yes, I did all 10 hours. Maybe you could argue there's a bit of bias, but for a 10-hour race, a lot of people agreed with me on this and said, yes, it was a very, very good race, especially in the prototype division. Although it petered out for the last hour, you couldn't really look away from exactly what happened at the top, because no matter who was in the lead in the opening hour and a half, they didn't want it. They would hand it over to someone else and go, you know what, I'll have a technical difficulty. I'll have a poor pit stop. I will be slow on track and overtaken. And it pulls out to the 53-second lead that Vendaval Sim Racing have. And you're thinking, everything's looking all nice and rosy for Vendaval Sim Racing. Is this the moment? No. It's the hashtag Vendaval moment. And a little bit of damage, about 6 seconds worth, somehow manifested itself into a meatball. Which, for those of you who don't know what a meatball is, it's the black and orange flag, which basically means you got too much damage, you've got to sit in pits and repair, which puts them a lap and a half behind, 200 seconds off the lead. Ouch. And Vendaval openly said that the contact they got was so minimal that they almost feel robbed again. And it's the 3rd time they get robbed from a race-leading position. 6 hours at the Glen, VLN, and now Petit Le Mans. And you think, what more can Vendaval Sim Racing possibly do to win a race? They show they're the quickest. Again and again and again. Granted, Asterix Evolution Racing team with Simone Maria Marcheno looked very quick. But Vendaval, on the overall, looked the quickest team. But give them credit. They put Going Klopman in. And within 3 hours, they pull the gap down from 200 seconds to 40. Now that I have to give credit for. Because you don't normally pull 200 seconds back down to just 40. It's an incredible drive from Klopman. Incredible drive from Cornelis to pull out 53 seconds, but ultimately, Klopman got tired. They ran out of momentum, ran out of steam. Frederick Evers drove the life out of the battle and mastered the traffic in the way that Frederick Evers only could dream of. And the story goes, not the greatest recovery, but 2 for 2 for both Marcus Hamilton and Frederick Evers. And for Hamilton and Evers, are they the greatest endurance partnership in the world of sim racing today? Apart from maybe Wisniewski and Brzezinski, who, by the way, another story, have joined Evolution Racing Team, you think that, apart from maybe Rasmussen and Price, Hamilton and Evers are a cohesive unit, and there's a reason why they both joined Movano instead of one and the other. And it's because they are fantastic as a pairing. They complement each other like mince and gravy, really. You couldn't really have one without the other. And Movano get the big win that they were hoping for. Tommaso Carla played his part as well. And Thrustmaster Movano now look dangerous, heading into the endurance season. The likes of Neo coming up, SCO coming up. You're talking DGFX, you're talking Blancpain qualification. Movano looked deadly. And deadly consistent at that. Yes, granted, Marcus Hamilton was not as quick as previous years. And I think Marcus Hamilton maybe is starting to become a little bit overrated as a driver. But that's down to the fact that he lost time compared to some very quick drivers like Fabrice Cornelis, who is arguably one of the most exciting up-and-comers in endurance racing. But let's be perfectly clear here, Movano deserved to win for the fact that they made the fewest mistakes. And I don't think many people can attest to that fact that Movano didn't deserve to win with the drive that they put together. Yes, they played the pantomime villains. And don't let that be anything against Thrustmaster Movano or anything towards Vendaval. Movano played the story perfectly. And Thrustmaster Movano deserved to win that race off of a sheer brilliance they had in the final 2 hours. It has to be said. Not only, though, was it about the prototypes majoritively, if that's even a word I can use, for the majority. You look at GTE, and it was interesting in GTE. Frederick Rasmussen starts in the back of the grid of GTE, and within an hour and a half, he's second. Wow. And that's a grid of 19 GTE machines, both Ferraris and Fords, and they make their way up to second. Unbelievable driving. But the big issue is they ran into Hoyksville-Core Motorsports, and it became the Hoyksville-Core Motorsports show because they led pretty much lights to flag. No mistakes driving from Voss, Kashubi, and Borcher, which is a very scary pairing of three in its own right, but my goodness. And I mean this very seriously, my goodness, did Hoyksville-Core Motorsports just demolish the field. And I wonder what the battle would have been like between the two cores had Core Sim Racing decided they wanted to race from the front. Yes, it was a very last-minute decision, but it was something very interesting on that Saturday to look at Hoyksville-Core Motorsports, because yes, they get the victory, but how much of it is an asterisk? Same reason as how much is Movano's victory an asterisk. Always very interesting to look at. Something that wasn't an asterisk, though, was the return of Glacier Racing. And it's been a while. There were rumours that things are falling apart behind the scenes, but Glacier are back. And Glacier look very good. The team of JJ Nylander, Timu Valkiavi, and Joni Hagner, they looked very solid as a team together. Nylander did most of the heavy lifting. Valkiavi played a very good bit part role, and Hagner brought it home with some great battling towards the end with Inex. And mind you, I wonder if Inex Racing would have won that race. They had one error that entirety of the event, and that's going down pit road, missing their box, then having to do a lap at fuel mix 12, which is effectively nurse your vehicle home fuel mix. And then they go for the no-tire call and they can't stop Glacier. Give them an extra 10 seconds or so, or give them the extra 30 seconds that they had. Inex win. And Inex cement themselves as arguably one of the best GT3 teams. But ultimately, Glacier did a very good job of doing what Glacier do. And that is come from nowhere and shock people. Okay, technically they came back in Campbell GT, and the Finns are notorious for being amazing in older vehicles. Take Juha Noralampi, Jonas Piheka, Tapani Luoto, Kai Rucola, all of those sorts of drivers. But Glacier did a very good job, and I like this return from Glacier, and I hope it's more than just a return or a one-off. I want to see them racing. I want to see Glacier doing well. Because Glacier are a milestone in sim racing history. They are always remembered. They were at one stage very, very feared. And I wonder whether that fear will come back after this win. I think not, but I think they'll do very well from it. On a side note, though, there was an issue with a couple of Ferraris and the fact that their engines blew coming out of pit road. I believe that was one of the bugs, but it is to be expected when you have a brand new vehicle out that they haven't 100% sorted everything, and that goes with anyone. No vehicle's 100% complete ever. I'd say the Ferrari was 98% complete. Engines blow up. Yes, that happens. A lot of people chose the Ferrari. Why? Because it's a Ferrari. Because it's new. If you're going to go with the delicacy of the month, that's the risk you run. Not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but things like that do happen, and they can be sorted. And it will be brought to attention to people. Anyway, from Petit Le Mans, we head to World's Fastest Gamer, round 304. And in golf, you call it the moving day. And I like calling it the moving day in the championship because all those who aren't in the fight fall by the wayside. All those in the fight, they cement their positions. And that was no more the truth than it was on that race on the Sunday. And even with iRacing's massive, unpredictable point-scoring abilities and the points in the championship, which nobody knows, the gap is 4 points between Davy de Corps and Freek Schothorst, with the Corps leading heading into the final event, all to lose. De Corps wins, second race win on RaceSpot.TV, on the big SOF split race. And honestly, Davy de Corps deserved it. He drove above and beyond the capabilities of all the other drivers. He got the best start off of the line on the one-lap qualifying that he had to do after butchering his first lap. He got it on the front row. He beat Jamie Fluke off the line. How rare is it to hear you beat an Apex Racing UK driver off of the start-finish line? And there was nothing really that Freek Schothorst could have done, except 2 corner-cutting mistakes at turn 1, the Variante di Rettifiglio. And without that, Freek Schothorst wins. But this is the point I keep on making. Freek Schothorst is driving he's not at his best. And I know Freek Schothorst can do a lot better. I saw him in his Formula Renault days dominate the best. Consistently, week in and week out. And I don't know any other driver, except maybe Jeffrey Reitveld, who could have ever challenged him in those days. Maybe Peter Berryman was another one. Govan Keeney would have been another one. But Freek Schothorst, for all the money in the world, you'd bank on him winning on that sort of field. But he's driving B-class racing, I can put in quotations. He's not driving at his best. It's not an A-class performance. That would be winning by 20 seconds. It's a B standard. And I tell you what, it's fair credit if Freek Schothorst wins this championship on a B standard drive for the majority of this. Because I know how good Freek Schothorst can be. And it may seem like I'm coming across, a little bit harsh towards him because he's part of Team Redline. They're such an institute and they're such a dynasty and they've got 2 there already. But Freek Schothorst, you go to Redline, you live up to the same reputations as Gregor Hooter and Bonner House. You are judged by that mantle. And you live and you die on that sword. I think Freek Schothorst has been fantastic in World's Fastest Gamer in the fact that his drive, while it isn't the best, he's still able to conjure the result. And I think that, especially at a track which didn't suit Redline, and it was noted that it didn't suit Redline, I thought he had the package to win. De Corps was brilliant. He made no mistakes, but 2 for Schothorst, and he was constantly then having to scrap it out with Jamie Fluke, who, mind you, isn't out of it if De Corps and Schothorst run amok into each other at some stage. That much I do know. But to make it perfectly clear, the last SOF race is the RaceSpot TV broadcast. The final chance is the RaceSpot TV broadcast. If there's any shenanigans in that last race, there is hell, fire, and brimstone to pay for between the pair of them. And Jamie Fluke's not out of it. If both take each other out, Jamie Fluke could win and could go and take that seat. And I think Jamie Fluke has always been on the back foot this season for Apex Racing UK for this race. And I think what Jamie Fluke brings to the table is something quite underrated. I think Jamie Fluke has always been a driver that has had a lot of respect, but maybe hasn't always delivered the goods. But Jamie Fluke is delivering the goods. You know, he has a second and a third in this championship. Yes, granted, he was at Sim Expo. He didn't do the highest SOF race before everything happened, before he went to Sim Expo. That puts him 200 points back, but 200 points for the SOFs that we've been getting, that's not impossible. It's not impossible at all. So I wouldn't count Jamie Fluke out of it. It's a 3-horse championship, but majoritively, I've done it again, but for the majority, it's going to be a 2-horse battle for the title. And Interlagos favours Showthorst. Redline like downforce. And you can get a lot of downforce at Interlagos. You can actually set up your vehicle 2 ways, high speed or high downforce. It's a very difficult track. And I think the Corps is going to win it. By not winning the race. I think neither Showthorst nor the Corps wins. I think maybe Jamie Fluke wins. And then the Corps takes the title by being higher placed up. 4 points, that's 1 position. No matter what the iRacing SOF is, that's 1 position. In effect, whoever finishes higher wins. And that's the story. But it was a fantastic thing to watch, was Fastest Gamer. Yes, it was a little bit sleepy at times. Monza sometimes has a habit of doing that, but there was their fair share of action at the front. Has to be said. Has to be said. Put it on the screen. It has to be said in bold white letters, like Super Cup or something like that. But to the point now where I talk about things that I don't know very well. NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. From Dover, I admit I haven't seen the race. I haven't seen the race. There hasn't been any highlights videos I could catch up on and understand. But what I understand is that we have a fantastic Final Four. Ryan Loser picks up the victory at Dover. And honestly, he needed that victory, did Ryan Loser. He arguably was the best driver in the regular season. But when it came to the chase, maybe he fell foul of going missing a little bit. But the victory does enough to book him into that final. He's the driver with the most wins this season on 4. 9 top 5 finishes, which shows you just how consistent Ryan Loser is. And with 2 pole positions as well, you know, who can blame him? He is the driver, arguably, in NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series that I'd say is the favourite. I really would say he's the favourite to win this. And a lot of people would probably agree with me on that because he looked so dominant heading in through qualifying, and then even after qualifying, he continued to put that up in the big leagues. You know, he didn't go missing and fall into the top 10 like a lot of drivers sometimes do. It was stunning to see Ryan Loser do what he did at Dover. And see him in the top 4 when everyone missed out the week prior. He needed a win. And then on top of that, the 2 that go through on most points scored in the chase, Bobby Zelensky, who got away with it, has to be said, got away with it. After the spin that he had in the opening round, I believe it was at Chicagoland. No, it was Darlington even. It was Darlington. Bobby Zelensky's a lucky lad to be in that chase. And that's me being very honest. Bobby Zelensky is a lucky lad to be in the chase. Logan Clampett for Inex also makes it in. And Logan Clampett, a fan favourite, yes. That will always make people very happy to see Logan Clampett in. But Logan Clampett's got there on consistency. 7 top 5 finishes. He hasn't had a win all season, and he's in that chase. All it takes is one win. Logan Clampett could be the man who only wins the final race of the season and then takes everything by not winning a single race in the regular season, not a single race in the chase except the last at Homestead, Miami. Now that would be some story. But as I said, it's some story because they've all got to beat the reigning champion Ray Alfala. Booked his ticket first, arguably the favourite in terms of having that experience at the top end, having 3 world championships. The other 3 drivers don't have any championships to share between them. And that's very crucial in this race to the chase. Ray Alfala is the only driver who can effectively say, I can win this championship. Everyone else can't put a moniker on saying, I am a favourite because I can win this championship. And at Homestead, mind you, remember, Ray Alfala had to win to take that one. Last season, he had to win. Ray Alfala likes Homestead. And I don't think we're going to see too much of an exception. It's going to be a great championship fight to the end. Logan Clampett needs to find a little bit more pace, or he's got to play the strategy game. Ryan Loser is the fastest man on paper, and I expect him to do very well, but he's got to stay off of making penalties. Alfala, arguably the most consistent driver in terms of staying near the front and picking up the top 5s and the wins. Apart from Ryan Loser, who has been a little bit inconsistent, but Ray Alfala has a tendency on the box to miss it, so he's got to cut that out of his game. And Bobby Zelensky needs to just stay out of bad luck situations to give himself any chance, because twice in this chase, or twice heading up towards the chase, he's been involved in late incidents that effectively put him out of the running, and Bobby Zelensky can't have that in the final race. Worth noting, 2 teammates, Alfala and Zelensky, fighting against each other. The garage may have to decide who. But the one driver I am a little bit disappointed in is Zach Novak, because I thought he had real potential to go make something happen. The form that he got in the final stages, my goodness, Zach Novak. He had some stunning form heading into the chase. He should have been in that chase finish. He had an incident at Darlington which put him out. And 1 win, 5 top 5s, 5 pole positions as well, which is almost unheard of. Zach Novak was the fastest driver at the end of the season, but more crucially than that, Zach Novak couldn't get it done. I think Zach Novak will take this as a learning experience. He has only a pro license and not a pro world championship license. That means that he had to qualify and was even outside of the top 10 of qualifying going in to this season. So I think he's done brilliantly from being the biggest rank outsider, but needs to do slightly a little bit more to Zach Novak to really make his statement come across. And I think that's the only thing that's missing from his game, is finishing off what he does in qualifying and making a race out of it. But the final thing, well, the final 2 things I'll talk about. The first thing I'll talk about for like 2 minutes, pit crew animations are also coming to iRacing. Hallelujah. We expect them to be on NASCAR only, really. That was what was being shown off. And pit crew animations do mean a lot in terms of having that aesthetic feel to it. But the question is going to be, is everyone going to see them? No. I'm probably going to say no on that. For now, we don't know what is going to look like, whether everyone's going to have pit crew or not, and if everyone's going to see pit crew or not. But either way, pit crew are very interesting, and they will bring a different element into the game. Be that whether you can drive through them or not. If you can't, pit stops become very, very interesting. And I expect there to be more implementation over the year as they work on it. But we'll talk about VLN and a big controversy coming out of VLN involving Piranha Sim Racing and Team RSO. Now, for those of you who didn't watch, because a 4-hour race going up against a 10-hour race, you do have to pick and choose. Big controversy at the end of the race between Piranha and RSO. Piranha Sim Racing are coming to line, 3rd position, not going to be challenged by anyone. They decide to back off, and it's a 3-way fight for the lead in MX5s between the 2 RSOs, and I think it was Lars Boll as well. And effectively, the Piranha Sim Racing GT3 acted as tow for one of the MX5s. And RSO took advantage of that and took the victory because of it. Now, here's the question. The first question that was asked, was it deliberate in terms of being RSO who orchestrated it? And I'd say no. I know the RSO guys very well. And I know they are not that sort of team. I've talked in great length with Manuel Sudo, who is the team boss from Switzerland. I've talked in length with Philip Schallenberg. I admire the way that they dominated all season. And this is the thing, RSO have never had to resort to that all season. It wasn't a case of calling up Gunnar Meeson and going, oh, hello, we need a little bit of help here. They would have wanted that fight to the end. And for anyone who understands the politics behind German sim racing and the amount of teams there are and the amount of battles and fights that go between teams one and another, you felt that something like this was coming. And yes, there is history between RSO and Gunnar Meeson. That has been divulged to me. I won't go anywhere there. So, more rather is it not RSO orchestrating it to get a victory, but more rather, would you argue it's Piranha Sim Racing and Gunnar Meeson orchestrating it to make RSO look bad? It's very interesting, and I don't know the answers. I can only speculate in this situation, but Gunnar Meeson, a driver that's recently cropped up onto the scene and onto everyone's knowledge, a driver who did very well on his debut before crashing out in hour 6. But incidents like this put question onto the sport. And I don't like it. And I think a lot of RSO don't like it. And I know that Nolan Scott, the NX team boss, certainly had a foul taste in his mouth during the broadcast. But what more can you do in that situation? You either took it or you didn't. You move out of the way of the tow. If you didn't take it, someone else was going to take it. RSO had 2 vehicles they could have used in that situation, when ultimately it almost still came to a drag race. One of the Shirneys got turned around at the end. But I don't think you can pin it on RSO. I really think you can't. Especially on the fact given that they organised at Sim Expo the panel that said why sim racing needs to be fair. You know, they have a very squeaky clean image. Not out of hiding things behind the scenes, because no, they're certainly not that. Not in my opinion, anyway. I think RSO are genuine, and I think the people at RSO are very genuine, and they like to put across that fact that they are very genuine people. Not my position to go into detail on it, though. I'm not part of RSO, I'm not part of Piranha Sim Racing, it's not my fight to battle, but if I were to think about it, you've got to be careful about who you pick your battles with and how you showcase it. But it's more than just that. I want to take a look, though, at the overall victory, which became trivial, I think, after what happened with Piranha Sim Racing and RSO. And that was that Elliot Biddle looked really, really strong for Evolution Racing Team. And I'm not surprised. Evolution Racing Team have a great developmental academy with the Hornets. I think that Evolution Racing Team promote their drivers very nicely. You had Blake Neck, you have Bo Albert, that are all waiting in the wings behind the likes of Feigl, Carl, Ford, and even the new signings, Wisniewski. We've got the likes of Brzezinski, Adam Maguire, Arian De Freitas, Benny Simonson, Simone Maria Marcello. Whichever way you look at it, Evolution Racing Team look deadly strong. And for an Australian-based team, they have worked on that past year, on getting talent from the continent, getting worldwide appeal and fame. Jordi Lopez Jr. as well. And I think in that respect, Evolution Racing Team 2018, probably the team to look out for the most. And this isn't me siding or anything like that. I'm being genuinely honest. I think Evolution Racing Team are scary heading into 2018. They are scary. But Elliott Biddle looked really, really good. And for a driver that, you know, does hide under the radar a lot at Evolution Racing Team, to get a victory, and not just a victory, mind you, he gets a victory by a good minute, I think. That says a lot over Alex Arana and Cristobal J. Lopez. Elliott Biddle is very quick. And I think everyone will go a long way to look at him now for the future. And I think that if you're an up-and-coming team, you go look for Elliott Biddle. I think you look for some Australian sim racers now. With the work that is going on with the likes of Trans-Tasman-TTL and Evolution Racing Team, I think you go look there. You have to. It's the same way you should go look into the Asian markets and look at new drivers. Look for the next Kazuki Umashimas and Yuta Saitos. By all means, go and do so. But the final thing I want to look at is that there was a lack or an absence in Petit Le Mans of Pure Racing Team, and that did surprise me. Because Pure Racing Team want to be considered the best. And when you want to be considered the best, you go racing the best races. And I think the 10 hours of Petit Le Mans was the bigger race on that week. So as such, Pure should have gone out there and raced in it. They didn't. They decided to run 2 Porsches in the VLN. Yes, they got a win. Yes, they got third. But that field was not massively strong. You still had the likes of Evolution Racing Team and Blake Neck giving a very big run for the money of Patrick Pichler. 2 seconds off at the end of the race. No slouch. But reality? Pure shouldn't be racing that race on that weekend. Any other weekend, I'd say yes, all for it. But it's a question of where are Pure's best ideals? They win GT3 on the 6 hours of the Glen by a country mile. Would they have done the same in GT3? I probably think they would have done. I probably think they would have won GT3 very handsomely. Would they look at going maybe up a level into GTP? Probably. No, GTE, sorry. No, I probably don't envision that. And I don't think the team has any reason to do so. They are GT3 drivers and they're Porsche drivers, but I've seen weirder. I think Pure need to get their ideals straight, personally, because the weight that Pure need to start punching can't be dominating the Little League. They gotta go out there on the strongest stage, the biggest stage, and swing for the fences. Otherwise, you get lost in the shuffle a little bit. And yes, while you do see certain things happen at certain times, yes, you do talk about tempers flaring between Beneke and Tamala. Yes, you do talk about Beneke and the fact that when he gets tired, he starts to find Armco. When you do get down to the fact that Vollmeyer had to do a great recovery after his wheel disconnected, where you talk about Venig having issues with his pedals. Pure Racing Team arguably are the strongest German team, aside maybe Coanda. And there's nothing against Pure. Pure are probably one of the strongest teams in GT3, in endurance. So why they're not in Petit Le Mans? Who knows? Not me. But I wish I did. I really wish I knew a lot more about what goes on behind the scenes. I know so much. I don't know everything. I'm not an oracle. But anyway, next show, we hope we try and get it Tuesday at 6. I know I'm recording this at Tuesday at 20 past midnight. It's what happens. If you have any questions that you want answered, message me on Twitter at Jake_Sparey or at IWeekly SN. You can also contact me on Facebook using my Facebook page, Jake Sparey. Make sure you subscribe for more. I have been #DoMindJakeSparey, and this was the iWeekly Show.